Welcome back to the HUD everyone, I'm Zacharoni, and if you are wondering why I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 yet, I'm waiting until CD Projekt Red release a bug spray to sort out the virtual creepy crawlies in the game. So I get this one goes in the leftover pile, I guess. Also, I'm going to test a rating system that I came up with that doesn't involve letters or numbers, instead they are based on my enjoyment of the game. So if I like it, it'd get a like it rating. If I didn't enjoy it but it's still well designed, then I appreciate it. If the designs are questionable but still control good, or the other way around, then I'm mixed about it. And if I dislike it, well, you get the idea really. So without further ado, please be seated and here's what's on my completed menu so far. On July 6, 2020, I started playing Bloodborne, and then on October 28, 2020, I beaten the final boss. As I keep playing Bloodborne, I started thinking why I stopped playing this game, and didn't bother to complete it when it would release, and when the body count started to rise, I came to the realization why. Bloodborne is understandably hard where every mistake I made was my fault because I didn't plan it right, resulting in unforgiving attacks that can instantly knock me out. And then once I returned from the grave, I lost all my blood's currency to purchase new items and level up, forcing me to retrieve them without dying. It's a tried and true formula that you die countless times and then learn from those mistakes to get better, or good if you still prefer the term GG of course. But the thing is, if this keeps happening a lot, then there's going to be a chance that you are going to rage quit halfway through the game, and admittedly, that nearly happened to me, resulting in me calling it quits and write a full script involving preferences compared to other games like Celeste and Super Meat Boy. But luckily, I gave it one last chance on this nasty boss I was up against, and it paid off, with everything I learned from that fight. Speaking of bosses, not only they are challenging to take down, but they are impressive to look at, ranging from a poisonous wolf-like beast and what on earth from my parents' cellar at that exactly, which it all take place in a Gothic city filled with corrupt angry villagers and grotesque creatures like mad dogs and scary faces with walking sticks. Also, the final boss, aka the final slice, was really challenging where, after so many failed attempts, I finally emptied his entire health bar with my heart still pumping. My only complaints are that you constantly have to refill your blood veins, which acts as your health potions, at pickups instead of automatically give you new ones after respawning, and you can't fast travel at each lantern, resulting in going back to the hub area and choosing the next location you previously found the lantern, which is extremely tedious to do. But despite all that, I like Bloodborne. It may be easy to quit after a few knockouts, but it's rewarding when you take your time with it, finishing that final slide to that one boss that you couldn't finish because you got kicked out at closing time. Fairly warned be thee, says them. Bet you can't tell which reference I'm talking about there. On August 4th, 2020, I started playing Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. When the Battle Royale genre was first introduced, many developers decided to catch in on this opportunity. But the thing is that most of the Battle Royales were all about trying to hit each other with small pointy objects made of copper and steel. But then Mediatonic was like, hey, why don't we take this genre and make a game based on our childhood love of Funhouse with shows like Total Wipeout, Ninja Warrior, and Takechi's Castle? And that's exactly what they did. Fall Guys is a friendly survival battle royale where 60 players compete in different challenges like getting to the end within the top ranks, collecting the most eggs for your team you are paired with, and surviving on single platforms like this one, where the soft bars come round and round and you have to jump over them at the right time. It's simple, it works, and it's fun, resulting in humorous moments and close finishes. But after a few play sessions since its launch, it started to get tiresome with its same old mode and courses that looted its steam a few days later. Luckily though, they do keep me coming back with its season updates like Season 2, where it introduced the Pendulums of Doom, while Season 3 introduced more courses than Season 2, involving score pointing and chasing a penguin around the arena. So while Fall Guys will keep me updated with new seasons that will entertain me throughout the months, I think I'd rather play this game with friends than on my own really. I like Fall Guys for being a fun take on the Battle Royale genre, and let's just hope it doesn't get shut down among us in the coming months. I hope I didn't jinx that right about now. On October 2nd, 2020, I started playing Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, and then on October 13th, 2020, I beaten the final boss with only 46% of the game completed. When I first got my copy of Crash 4, I was shocked to see that the game is rated PEGI 12, the first in the series that featured bad words, which seems a little out of place for the series, something that Jak 2 didn't really learn. And the character who made that happen was Dingodile, where they were trying to make him over the top compared to previous iterations, but might have gone too far with his personality. Anyway, as for the game itself, well, it's hard, like surprisingly hard, where jumps need to be precise, otherwise you'll be earning your wings to heaven quite early. But do I think this is punishing? Well, it can be at times, but once I master the layout and timing, I feel that satisfaction of accomplishment, just like the other game I mentioned earlier. So it makes sense why the modern difficulty was added, where you have no lives to worry about while playing Crash 4, making the game more accessible for people like me who are not like the Gamer Brit. No offense by the way, Mr. Brit. Plus, the new features like wall running and grind wheels are a welcome addition to the series that add more variety, and the 4 masks that you encounter in different levels that comes with their abilities like altering platforms, freezing time for a few seconds, and reversing gravity. Then there are the 3 extra characters like Cortex, who can use his ray gun to change enemies into platforms, Tana can use her grappling hook to pull across to new areas, while Dingodile, who I mentioned earlier, can use his suck cannon to suck up crates and hover across long distances for a few seconds. Each of them are fun to use, but with the exception of side-scrolling levels, they don't have a lock-on feature, which can be difficult to fire at a target in 3D when getting the character at the right position. As for the final slice, well, try not to spoil too much. The last few levels are challenging, especially the final boss, but the chapter they took place in made me laugh because of one character that was featured in all 3 of these levels, and those who play it will probably know what I mean really. Now the next thing to do is to finish everything else for that 100% completion, but there's a problem with that. While the smashing all crates and finding secret gems do return, I think they went too overboard with the other objectives, like collecting fruits, which they have to do something with them if modern mode was activated, and the least number of deaths in each level. In fact, that last one killed it for me, given that the game is really hard and I died more than 50 times in the last few levels. And to make matters worse is that there's a secret ending if you go over 100% completion, and that's by getting all the platinum relics in time trial mode, which is also the second moment that killed it for me. But I do like the inverted levels where they flip the regular levels to mirror mode and add in an extra gimmick to them, like in the pirate world where everything is white, and if you make Crash or Coco spin, then they start splashing out paint to color them. So while I gave up on the 100% and beyond completion run, overall, I like Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. It may have been 10 years since his last game, if you discount the remakes, but he's finally back in the spotlight, and hopefully he'll be in the driver's seat with a true sequel to its racing spin-off. On October 14th, 2020, I played and beaten Steve's Classic Mode in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Out of all the characters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Steve from Minecraft may be the most WTF character to date, given that he can only swing his pickaxe around rapidly. So the big question is, how did Steve play in this exactly? Well, the main mechanic Steve has is gathering resources, which he can use to make blocks for platforms, a minecart for its special attack, which is actually pretty lethal, and a better sword for his attacks, depending on the materials you collected. However, he can only improve his sword by using a crafting bench that randomly generates on the battlefield, where it can be destroyed quite easily if you are not defending it. So here's the next question, did I enjoy playing as Steve? Well, Steve does offer an interesting playstyle where you have to utilize crafting, and its up smash is pretty effective. But as a fighter, he can be really hard to play as, given that he relies heavily on crafting. Plus, his up recovery special is weak, given that there is not enough altitude for him to move forward or backwards. As for everything else, well, first I like the new stage where it's a good representation of Minecraft with its random generated environments and day and night cycle that brings the enemies of the franchise in the background. The soundtrack does have a good selection of tunes from spin-offs, and Classic Mode does a good job of representing the layout of each battle. Though at first I didn't know what the final boss represent, given that I haven't played Minecraft fully. But after a Jaden animation video of her trying to beat Minecraft, it was making sense to me. But overall, I'm mixed about Steve in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I'll give him credit for staying true to what he does in his game, but I don't think I'll be using him a lot in this game anytime soon. On October 17th, 2020, I started playing Legends in Ghost of Tsushima. And then on November 4th, 2020, I beaten all the story missions. Now admittedly, I should have completed Legends on the exact day when I started playing it in my extra source video, but I was trying to complete Bloodborne, so I missed out on the opportunity to kill time really. But then on November 4th, I was given time to check out the story chapters with another player, and right away I recommend you to play this with friends than strangers. Because if you try to hear the narrator talk about the story, the stranger will just go straight to the next story, interrupting the narration. What's worse is that some might just go straight in without discussing the situation, because if you don't plan it, you might constantly get put to rest. Oh, and if you were wondering, no, my friends don't have the game. Well, except for one, which I'll not say who he is, but he traded it in because he couldn't handle it anymore. You just couldn't hang in there for long, my bird brain friend. But I will say that each mission is well put together, like using Kai to quickly defeat enemies, and there's this one chapter where all enemies are invisible. Then at the end of each stage, I was rewarded with loot to equip my character, and luckily, they aren't identical to one another. Plus, it features a co-op survival mode and raids in the future, but I didn't have the chance to play any of them, given that I don't care about this kind of game really. So overall, I appreciate Legends for being an interesting community-based game without the use of repetitive loot, but I think I prefer the single-player content of Ghost of Tsushima than the multiplayer experience. On October 20th, 2020, I started playing Doom Eternal's DLC, The Ancient Gods Part 1. Then on October 30th, 2020, I stopped playing it, and then on December 5th, 2020, I beaten the DLC. A while back, I said that Doom Eternal was enjoyable, but maybe a bit too much metal for it to stand next to 2016's Doom that it's a sequel to. And with the Ancient Gods DLC, the same holds true. The only difference is that it's harder than the main game, which might be a good or bad thing depending on how you feel about it. And I curse a lot while playing this game, particularly with the enemies you face, like the returning Arch Vials that boost every enemy's speed if not destroyed first. Marauders, where you can only attack them if their eye glows green, and you face two of them at the same time. And then there are the spirits, which what I heard returns from Doom 2016, but not only it does increase the speed of any demons it possesses, but also increase their health and attack power as well, making them the most irritating enemies in the game. But to make matters worse is that if you don't finish them off with the right weapon after they are free, then they get to possess the nearest demon and do the same thing to them, adding more irritation source to them. Unfortunately though, my experience came to a halt when the game suddenly crashes at the third stage, and it did this every time I tried to play it. Luckily though, I was getting a new PC later, so I decided to give it a break and wait for it to be here. And the good news is, it works. But the bad news is that I had to set the difficulty to low because I had enough of the BC/S difficulty. No offense to all my GG shouters and hardcore fans out there. As for the final slice, well, it's not as hectic than the main game's final slice, but they do mix it up with special conditions to keep me on my toes, and the ending of part 1 does give me a hint of, without spoiling anything, what to expect in part 2. So, in conclusion, I appreciate the Ancient Gods Part 1 for upping the challenge, but in the end, it just got too many spicy peppers on that I had to remove a couple of them to make it easy to eat. And that's probably what I'll do in Part 2 if it's more harder than Part 1 really. On October 23rd, 2020, I started playing Resident Evil 7. And then on December 16th, 2020, I finished the story. Playing Resident Evil 7 is a two-part nightmare. One, it's actually scary, particularly now in first person, which is probably the ideal perspective for horror. And two, the lenses in my VR headset always get steamy when I place them on my face, resulting in stopping and wiping them constantly, which I probably guess you all have the same experience I did. So yeah, I've been playing this game with the PlayStation VR headset, and it's a more terrifying experience because I have full 360 control and it feels like I'm actually there. Plus, I can use it for precise aiming while holding down the left trigger when using a gun, which makes scoring headshots more satisfying, even if my head keeps shaking because I'm so terrified of the game itself. But do I think this is the scariest Resident Evil game in the series? Well, given that I played the remake of the first game first, I can say that 7 is scarier than that game, but I think its creature designs are weak. I mean, having a walking corpse sneak up on me is more intimidating than these symbiote-style enemies. But the Baker family are the most terrifying adversaries in the game, with Mrs. Baker a standout from the pack with her swarm of incest that she summoned to give me a bad day of stings and bloodsuckers. The story is also interesting as well, following Ethan, who is looking for his wife Mia after believing she was dead until he got a message from her. And as I keep playing, the plot unfolds with the secret of the Baker family and the sources of their craziness. As for the final slice, well, the scare does take a back seat halfway to the end, given that I now become a full powerhouse with a lot of ammunition, but the conclusion to it was satisfying, and I met an old friend along the way, and RE fans will probably know who I'm talking about exactly. However, I do have some other complaints, like the screen goes black when I jump off something or enter story moments in VR. Halfway in the middle act, it features a moral choice that seems unnecessary. The main villain is uninteresting and a little cliche really, and the loading times are a bit of a pain when you load up a save file. But despite all that, I like Resident Evil 7, and I'm eager to experience the 8th game in the series to see Ethan's story come to a close. But first, I have to play the DLC just in case there are connections to the next installment. On October 27, 2020, I started playing Ghostrunner, and then on November 9th, 2020, I finished the game. When I first played the demo for Ghostrunner a while back, I was intrigued by its premise and what kind of game it is. A cyberpunk first-person runner that combines Mirror's Edge platforming with Hotline Miami, where one swipe of its sword can kill anyone, while a shot from a plasma rifle can kill you instantly as well. And when I start playing the full game, it starts to expand with new stages that required creative thinking with my slow motion ability. New enemies are introduced, like ones that need to be attacked from behind, while there are ones that require a perfectly timed swing with the katana to parry them, leaving them wide open for an attack. Abilities are also introduced that come in handy, like the Jedi-like super effective force push, though I don't like the upgrade system where it presents itself with Tetris pieces that need to be placed in areas that match them. Other nitpicks I have include indications can be hard to know when you are against a wall, which results in cheap deaths. The explosive meatbags can be irritating to get past through, and the story is predictable with decent voice acting. Plus, it features boss fights that are challenging and satisfying to figure out how to beat them. But disappointingly, there are only 3 of them, which features a giant tower, a ninja where her health is reset every time you go down, and Catherine Hahn from Into the Spider-Verse? Don't worry, you'll know what I mean when you look her up. As for the final slice, well, it does offer one lakh optical core to conquer, but in some sections of it, I think they went a bit overboard with them, particularly the ones with the projectiles that fire at you. But despite all that, I like Ghostrunner for being a unique take on the first-person runner where you can slice up enemies in the best looking game I have played this year. and probably the most bug-free cyberpunk game of 2020. How to guess which cyberpunk game of 2020 won the most bugs exactly? On November 11th, 2020, I started playing Sakura of Rice and Ruin, and then on December 24th, 2020, I finished the main story. During the release of Sakura of Rice and Ruin, cultural expert Gaijin Goomba released a video where he runs down the references of rice planting and shows you how to utilize it in-game, which I did recommend to look at in my toppings video. Then, after following his instructions on what to do, I managed to produce rice with good results, leading my character to become more powerful as I keep playing, and probably a little too overpowered as I keep leveling up her skills. It's a good thing that he made that video because the game doesn't give you a tutorial to show you how to do farming properly. Though Toverman, I hope I pronounced that name right, does give you tips on how to sort your garden every time you talk to him, but he doesn't really show you how to do it. Which does fit his character as I find out more about him as I keep playing, but maybe it would have made gardening more easier if he shows us how to do it. I mean, does anybody remember Talon from Ocarina of Time? Yeah, kinda like him, but more jolly really. So it does the farming simulating well, even if the controls are not sometimes precise, but then came the combat, where it should have been given a few pointers in development. While Sakura's light and heavy attack does have some impact, and combining them with stealth attacks are satisfying to pull off, if a little too overpowered that I mentioned earlier, the ability to dodge incoming attacks is questionable. No, I'm not talking about her scarf that she used to swing around behind enemies. I'm talking about her sidestep what she does, because you have to double tap the D-pad or left analog stick twice in any direction. Here's a pointer, Elden Weiss. Why not move dodging to one of the triggers that are not assigned to anything by default? Because using the D-pad or left analog stick can be forgettable quite easily. And speaking of forgotten, they forgot to add in a tutorial on parrying incoming attacks, which happens at random for me because I have no idea how to pull it off exactly. And when I tried to, after finding it out on the internet, it doesn't respond that well. Also, having a hunger meter to refill my health is an interesting idea, but why do I have to wait until I'm out of danger for it to automatically refill? And yet again, this is something that the triggers could have used. As for the main quest, the story is straightforward, involving investigating an island occupied by demons, which does give the main character some character growth. But getting through it required you to complete a set of extra objectives in previous stages that I completed, adding tedious source that slows the pacing down to a crawl. However, getting to the final slice of the main quest was surprisingly enjoyable, where it started off with a gauntlet full of enemies to defeat, thanks to my overpowered equipment, but then the final boss made my overpowered equipment look like child's play, making it one of the most challenging bosses I have faced in the game that utilized a new ability I gained during this fight, which maybe would have been handy to have at the beginning, given that Sakura doesn't have a guard action to block incoming attacks. So while the combat could have been better, and the structure of the main quest does get tedious as you keep playing, I still like Sakura of Rice and Ruin for being a great garden simulator with a good payoff every time you successfully did a good accomplishment of rice you grow every year, which you can convert them into food or spend them on items at the capital. And trust me, this was Japan's currency before they moved to the yen, which is less edible and a bit hard to chew really. At the start of 2020, I've been playing Apec Legends and Rocket League throughout the whole year, with 62 videos of Apec Legends and 46 videos of Rocket League. After I was done with Fortnite last year, I thought I would never play another Battle Royale game again because of how hard it is to get first place. But then I bought Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and with it, I made an Origin account to play it, and I thought, might as well give Apec Legends a go since it's free to play, and after playing it, I start getting heavily invested in this one. Apec Legends is a more fast-paced and less toxic experience where I can slide down a hill at full speed that keeps up the pacing, with satisfying impact fire for each weapon. From the auto shotgun to the charge rifle that is one part sniper rifle and one part laser beam. But what makes this different from the last Battle Royale I played is that you can revive your teammates when they are killed off, by picking up their tags and getting them to a beacon to bring them back into the fight. Plus, it featured a cast of characters with different personalities, like the friendly robot Pathfinder who just want to have fun without insulting anyone, while Remnant is the opposite of Pathfinder that just insult enemies and give his teammates the cold shoulder after helping them, or they give him something in return. And each of them have their own abilities, like Bloodhound who can see other players' positions, Gibraltar can drop a shield barrier, while Wave can disappear for a few seconds for a quick escape. And by the time I got the Steam version, I downloaded the Championship Pack that comes with extra characters, like Mirage who can summon Decoy to, as he put it, bamboozle other players, which is probably my favorite line in the game really. So teamwork is essential, where you need to utilize your class character to help others out, and with it, result in a few victories and a few close ones I found satisfying. The only complaint I have is that the free-to-play model does take a long time to unlock every character in the game, but aside from that, I like Apec Legends for being a more faster and enjoyable battle royale than the last game I played. No offense kids. Now on to the next game I played for a whole year, and that's Rocket League, where admittedly I actually played this game when it was released on the PS4, but I didn't spend enough time with it really. So Rocket League is a football/soccer game where you use a car to score a point by getting the ball into the opponent net. Yeah, it's straightforward and simple, but that's what makes it enjoyable. Controlling your car is tight and responsive that has a jump button that comes in handy to score a shot with satisfying results. But while it's easy to play, it's also difficult to master. Mainly some of the hidden mechanics where I experienced a few players doing fancy tricks that are not hacks that I couldn't do. I mean, how did this chap do this exactly? Yeah, I will never know either. There are also other modes that are featured in this game, but they are pretty hit and miss. First we had Drop Shot, where you must break your opponent's floor to score a point. Rumble features power-ups that are crazy broken. Hockey is just the same mode, just with a hockey puck. And Hoops is basketball that just don't work for me really. But I do like the one-off event modes like Heat Seeker, where the ball is magnetized to the net every time you touch it, and Spike Rush, where Speed Boot is deactivated when you are holding the ball, or more like impaling it really. So I enjoyed my time with Rocket League, but after seeing all the pros playing, doing all those fancy tricks, I ended up appreciating Rocket League for being a game that is easy to play but difficult to master, and I think I'd rather play this game casually than serious really. Whew, that's a lot of games I covered this month. So now that's all the games I've beaten, what about the ones I'm still playing? Well, first off there's the DLC where we have Virgil for Devil May Cry 5, which admittedly I haven't really continued his story because I was too busy playing Sakura of Rise and Ruin. But I'll get to him, don't you worry. And then there's Sephiroth in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I did complete his challenge event and classic mode, but I want to spend enough time with him with my friends to get my final analysis with him. Now I know what you're thinking, what did Sandy Claus get me for Christmas? Well, first off, I got Sackboy: A Big Adventure for the PS4, a 3D platformer similar to Super Mario 3D World, which will be released to the Switch soon. Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity for the Switch that take place before Breath of the Wild in the perspective of the Dynasty Warriors series, and Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS4, a standalone expansion to the original Spider-Man PS4. Oh, and what that did I hear? What's my next games for my year's supply series? Well, it's 3 games this time, and I'll be presenting them with a special thumbnail that doesn't reveal the title, but I will add it on the following day when they release. So check back with me later for my year's supply, and I'll tell you what I think of all the other games I've been playing in a completed menu. And if you like what you see, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Plus, stay in touch with my Twitter page, link in description down below. But until then, I'm Zacharoni. Enjoy your pizza, remember to wash your hands, have a happy new year, and I'll see you next time.